What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Spencer, and today I am debuting a new deck that I have not shown on the channel just quite yet, and that is Infernoids, of course. In my experience, man, because people have been saying it's like a good rogue choice. I've never personally played the deck. I didn't know exactly how it worked, but I can tell you for sure that this is one of the most unique, fun decks that I've ever played in Yu-Gi-Oh. Uh, it has this little like loop you can do, not loop, but interactions that you can do with Lair of Darkness. Sometimes better than dedicated Lair of Darkness decks with like Diablos or whatever it's called. I think it's way better. And the best thing about this little interaction with Lair of Darkness, and I'll start the replays here, is that you tribute for cost, meaning you can tribute your opponent's monster for cost. So if it's a negate, they can't respond to it. There's nothing they can do. And most of them, or a lot of them, are actually quick effects too. So during either player's turn. But even without Lair of Darkness, a lot of cool things you can do. I like this deck a lot because you can actually get advantage off of Forbidden Droplets, because these cards can't be summoned from or some of them can be summoned from the hand, but a lot of them from the graveyard as well. So you're not like really truly negging with them. And also with Forbidden Droplets, you can just use like your Pot of Extravagance that you just used to negate, right? He had the Lance, he has the DD Crow, almost everything you could possibly think of, but it's not going to be enough. The great thing about the Fusion monster as well is that it sends cards from your extra deck to the graveyard, meaning you can send cards like Elder Entity Nest and Wing Pegasus, which of course I do. And I also didn't know this until I started playing, but Elder Entity is not a hard once per turn. Isn't that absolutely crazy? So meaning if you didn't banish all of them with Pot of Extravagance, let's say you used it and you send 3 Elder Entity, you can pop 3 cards in your opponent's field. A lot of these replays you'll see, like, my opponent kind of throws the kitchen sink at me. You know, he had 3 different hand traps, and obviously he had the 3, or the IP and the AVC Dragon Buster to start off with, so it's not like I'm just kind of getting lucky here. Now in this one, I may get a little lucky. Kind of a Dino player, Bricks, very rare. Does have the Ash Blossom though. So he has the Ash there. Not a huge deal because I still have the Void Feast, so it's kind of just it didn't really do anything, because what you normally search with the Void Vanishment is the Fusion spell, but you can send whatever you want with Decatron to the graveyard, and then you can use that effect during this turn. So what I did was I copied the one that negates spell and traps, because I kind of felt like he was going to go for double evolution pill. And in that case, it worked out for me. I was able to tribute it. And then the trap cards, special summons like 3 of them from the deck. So 2 Jackatrons. You can set a monster negate their way, and like maybe even a banish from their graveyard, which is really nice. Able to kind of snowball. The only problem with this deck is that you have like no advantage at all. You're gonna burn through your hand like crazy. It's not always like that. It's not as bad as it sounds, because a lot of your resources are in the graveyard. I know this deck had a really nice combo with Link Ross and stuff, but unfortunately that's not the case anymore. And here I'm gonna start doing this. So this Infernoid, whatever this card's called, Sujet, its effect is just to banish a card from the graveyard. But what I did was, since he had a Macabre, I was like, well, I don't really care about anything in his graveyard. I think all he had at the time was an Almirage. But if I tribute his monster, he cannot negate anything anymore. And now that I'm playing like Eldritch and stuff, this effect is going to be really useful. That's what I tried to do there. I tried to tribute his Aleister to banish it, so even if he got the invocation spell, he wasn't going to be able to use it. Had the Forbidden Droplets again, so I'm still working through quite a bit of adversity to make this happen, to win this duel against. Invoked Eldritch isn't exactly meta, but Eldritch is still a really popular engine right now, and I actually think Infernoids are a couple of support cards away from being meta relevant, with just how good like some of the stuff it can do is. Like being able to just dump cards to your graveyard like crazy. I think this even dumps additional cards. Is just so awesome. And I did finally get this Void Fest to go off, so now I'm just going to start tributing all of his cards. I'm going to banish his Eldritch cards. Like, I'm sure I do it a couple of times here, and you can actually Synchro Summon into level 7s. I kind of made a mistake here, to be honest with you, but even still, A lot of the banish cards is actually on their turn, so that's where my misplays were coming in. This is when I first started to play the deck, and I honestly don't mind showing you guys some of this stuff, like when I make mistakes, so you don't do it too. I know it kind of makes me feel vulnerable, but who cares? Top deck of Decatron, which is nice, but also like just okay. I mean, it's not the biggest deal in the world. And I actually misplay here and bounce off of myself. So again, more and more misplays. Like I said, this is during your opponent's turn, so be careful. I actually tried to activate the effect, and I banished it. I actually negated it myself, but I tributed the Macabre for cost. So you can call it a 6,000 IQ play. I call it me making a mistake and getting lucky, is ultimately what it comes down to. He's going to continue to try to keep using Eldritch cards. Again, he just draws into a bunch of his hand traps, helping him out. But it's not like he's creating these crazy boards, right? Like, I am at least disrupting him enough to just burn through all of his resources. And then I can do this and this. I don't really understand this interaction. Oh, okay, so I thought when you destroy the token, but it has to be sent to the graveyard. Again, just more unique little interactions here. I'm going to be able to summon 3 from the deck with a monster negate. So he's going to try to use Magical Meltdown, and I'm going to tribute his Aleister to negate the effect of Search Invocation and effectively just end the duel, which is cool. So, I mean, I think this deck it really can beat anybody from my experience. I just think in order for this deck to reach to the next level, like outside of Rogue, let's say, definitely needs a new fusion monster, and it needs some new Infernoid cards, I would say. Like some level 7s, some level 6s, because, again, for those of you who aren't aware, the idea behind this deck is you can't summon monsters once you reach over level 7 total in the field. So if you were to summon a Nuchu, you can't summon any of the other Infernoid monsters because it's a level 9. Now, if you summon like a level 4 and a level 4 or level 3, which sometimes you can do, like some of these are 4, then you can still summon a Nuchu over it because it has to be 8. It can be 8 or lower. But the ones that are like, the big ones that are like 7 and 8, they have mostly like battle phase effects, which are, some of them are good and you will use them, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, it would be nice if they had different effects, and you can kind of summon, and also like having more attack. I think the highest one is like 2,900. The fusion monster is 35, which is real nice, but still, yeah, I don't think that's that great. Monster Gate, you're probably going to mill through the majority of your deck. There's only 3 targets. It's all Decatron. And it'd be great, like I said, those, like, if you had more level 7s, to have ones that were better in the graveyard, and the smaller ones below 9 only banish 2, which is also really nice. I don't find myself using all of the cards, so it'd be cool to know what they could do with it. So now I have at least a monster negate during his turn. It's actually a really unique deck that he's playing. It's like Emancipator's like Beta the Magnet Warrior. It's like a pseudo engine, which is nice. So Forbidden Droplets is probably gonna, I'm holding on to these basically as much as I can. He can summon all of these at once, but until he goes like into the extra deck and starts to threaten me, smart of him to go into Nightmare Cerberus, and Nightmare Cerberus is actually a really good card right now. Not a bad candidate for like a budget tech. Just as I've been playing, I see more and more people having it in there. And I think it's because we are transitioning less and less away from like a negate format and more towards a control. It's like Vanity's Ruler and stuff like that. Like, those aren't hard negates. They're more of just like, oh, like, you're not going to be able to get through this. See, the thing is, like, I don't mind giving up this Anuchu, this 3,000 attack monster, because I know that I can just summon a bunch more the next turn. My graveyard was so stacked that I'm just going to be able to keep going, essentially. And I just have a couple more, and these are really good ones. Like, I think Orca sets up a pretty decent board, or he's actually playing Mech Knights. And in this format, too, especially, I really, really just don't mind passing turn if I don't have anything, or if I feel like I'm not going to be able to get enough advantage off of my plays. There aren't a lot of one-turn kill decks. Eldritch is not one of them. Zodiac is not one of them. I think Drytron probably can, because they can summon a bunch of 2,000 attack monsters, although I don't think that's guaranteed at all. And here I'm doing whatever I can to play around Mech Knights, which is, what I do. He's got the Forbidden Droplets. He ends up sending 3, and I think it kind of kills his plays. Like, he's very linear now, and like, is he gonna be able to kill me now? I've never seen Orcus do it that much. I mean, during their prime days, sure. He's more of like going to set up his plays, but I have so many cards in my graveyard now. It's like, it doesn't. I still feel like I'm gonna be able to play through it. As long as I can break this, pretty much, I'm going to feel pretty safe. He's got the Redoer, but I do have the Forbidden Droplets in my hand, and also 2 cards that are just going to help me in my graveyard, like fuel my plays. Top decking the Forbidden Droplets, not the best thing in the world, but I only have to negate the Redoer. So I can actually start bouncing cards and destroying cards. A lot of the lower level ones, special summon from the hand, not the graveyard. That would also be a good thing if they were like level 4s in Infernoids that just kind of had better effects. Or I should say, these effects are fine, but you should be able to summon them from the hand and graveyard. I think that'll be the next level for Infernoids, because a lot of times these get milled, and they're only useful to special summon the bigger Infernoid monsters, at least in my experience. This is by far the best, probably, replay that I can show you. This is against Spriggans, and here you'll see like the Lair of Darkness plays, and just being able to negate, but also just banish his resources, because this is a very, very graveyard heavy archetype. And this has like a Time Thief Redoer type of effect. What I'm going to try to do is special summon the fusion monster, but he smartly kind of banishes himself. But since he used a monster effect, I'm going to go ahead and draw a couple. I get the Void Feast off of Vanishment, so I'm going to be able to special summon 2, or I think I maybe already used a Decatron, so I didn't have the second one. But this is great because this is one of those that lets you banish cards from the graveyard. So all these cards that attach themselves, I'm going to do whatever I can to continue to banish them so he doesn't have those cards. Because once he runs out, and now, like, once he runs out, then he can't do anything. This card is useless. He's got like 2 more, and that's it. So if I can continue to do this, which I definitely can, because look at all of, like, almost all of them have that effect. These 2 do, certainly, just to banish those cards. And every time he summons an XYZ monster, I'm just going to use Lair of Darkness to tribute it. So he's kind of running out at this point. I think he's going to try to activate a monster effect, but I'm going to tribute his XYZ monster to banish that card, because even the ones that negate monster effects and spells, they actually banish instead of just destroying or sending it to the graveyard, which is just really good removal. But yeah, that was a good long look at Infernoids. I'm sorry, I'm kind of caught behind on all these deck profiles, so probably in the next 4 days, I'm just going to get caught up on all of those, let you guys know what I'm using, because at this point, I'm kind of polished them enough to where I feel like I can put them on the channel. But other than that, guys, that's going to do it for today's video. Hope you have an absolutely wonderful night.